Hi guys, it's Debbie. January felt like it dragged on forever this time, but we finally made it through, and I can't wait for the summer to arrive here in Italy. I'm so over the cold. Anyway, film-wise, January was an interesting month with some disappointments and some surprises. My favourite film of the month was probably Society of the Snow. I was already familiar with the Andes plane crash incident, where survivors endured months of isolation atop the Andes, resorting to cannibalism to survive. So when I started reading exceptional reviews about this film, I was curious to see how it would be, and let me tell you, I loved it. This film beautifully captures the feelings of despair, loneliness, depression, and hopelessness, punctuated by moments of hope and resilience. It explores the unimaginable thoughts that went through their minds and the struggles they faced beyond just the crash. The avalanches, the scorching sun, the dynamics within the group. I'm really pleased I decided to watch it. Now let's talk about the films that surprised me. First of all, Maestro. From the reviews, I was expecting this film to be an absolute dumpster fire. But after watching it, I'm wondering, did we actually see the same film? I get that it's obvious that Bradley Cooper wants his Oscar, but then after all, which filmmaker doesn't? And insisting on how it took him 6 years to perfect a 6-minute scene is a bit excessive. However, this film is far from terrible. It's about composer and director Leonard Bernstein, focusing on his tumultuous relationship, including his marriage, while engaging in numerous affairs with men, and how this impacted his career and relationship with his children. It has great cinematography, great acting, and the music sent shivers down my spine. I think what upset many viewers is that this film only covers a specific side of the character. But not every biopic has to be a comprehensive birth to death story. Take, for example, The Fabelmans. It's about Steven Spielberg before he even became a director. Overall, Maestro surprised me. Just one piece of advice: subtitles can come very handy here. Another film that unexpectedly surprised me was The Creator. Initially, I wasn't drawn to this film. Already from the trailer, it didn't seem to be my thing, with this worldwide war between AI, robots, and humankind. However, I ended up watching it with my friends, and in the end, it exceeded my expectations. The film's special effects were exceptionally well done, with the robots avoiding the uncanny valley effect that often plagues such characters. I was particularly impressed with the effects of the mothership, with its ominous blue light tracking and eliminating robots and their human allies. Now I'm curious to watch Godzilla -1 to see who could potentially bring home the Oscar for best effects. Instead, two films I expected to enjoy more were Poor Things and The Boy and the Heron. The Boy and the Heron marked the first film of the year for me. I went to watch it at 11 AM on January the 1st to kick off the year in a good manner. As a huge fan of Miyazaki's, I was naturally excited for this film. It follows the journey of a young boy dealing with grief and who is approached by a mysterious talking heron that leads him on an epic adventure. While the film has beautifully drawn and scored scenes, I found myself overwhelmed as the adventure unfolded. It seemed like the narrative kept piling on more and more beautiful imagery without cohesion. Before you grab your pitchforks, I'm not saying this is a totally bad film. I just didn't enjoy it as much as Miyazaki's other films, and it didn't really meet my expectations. The underlying themes of overcoming fear and grief really touched me, and the ending had me in tears. Remember, this project is intended as a message for Miyazaki's grandson to teach him about grief and about passing on. You can tell Miyazaki's connection to the subject was evident. As a child, he was traumatized by war and also his mother's lengthy illness. However, I felt that the film's core message was somewhat overshadowed by just an abundance and repetition of visually stunning scenes of one chaotic adventure after the other. Another film that didn't quite meet my expectations was Poor Things. The hype surrounding this film was insane, so I was eagerly looking forward to its release. Without giving away too much, I'll just say that Emma Stone portrays the peculiar, bizarre experiment of scientist Willem Dafoe in a mesmerizing steampunk setting. The first half of the film was genuinely funny. The whole theatre room was laughing out loud as Emma Stone's character gets into a lot of funny and awkward situations. I loved and hated Mark Ruffalo's character. However, as the film progressed, I found myself growing increasingly disappointed. In my opinion, the second half of the film fell into a repetitive cycle, revisiting the same concepts over and over. This was particularly frustrating given the rich and intriguing world that the film had built. Perfect for exploration. I've seen all except for one of Yorgos Lanthimos' film Alps from like 15 years ago, so I knew, let's say, what madness to expect. And Poor Things also features a lot of elements from his previous movies, but I just couldn't connect with it. Then for some bizarre coincidence, without knowing anything about their plot, within the span of one day, I watched two completely separate films, both centered around women who use an innovative technology to enter other people's minds. So they do this by laying on a table, rigging themselves up with equipment, and obviously they have to deal with the risk of getting lost in the subconscious and the mind. No clue why this coincidence happened. The two films are Possessor and The Cell. Out of the two, Possessor is the better one. You guys recommended it to me after I watched Infinity Pool by the same director, Brandon Cronenberg. Without giving away spoilers, Possessor follows a woman who commits crimes by entering other people's minds and taking control of their bodies. However, as expected, things quickly spiral out of control. This film doesn't hold back. It's brutal, unflinching, featuring some incredibly gory scenes, and what's particularly impressive is how seamlessly it blends reality with the surreal world of the mind. The other film, The Cell, has a bit of a cheesier vibe to it. It stars Jennifer Lopez as a psychiatrist who uses this technology to enter the mind of comatose people. This technique becomes useful in the investigation into a serial killer, and while the film leans heavily on tropes and you can tell it really wanted to be a Silence of the Lambs mixed with more technology, it does have its strengths. For example, one thing it nails is the portrayal of the creepy, distorted and nonsensical nature of dreams and the subconscious. For really, really bad films, this month I rewatched Cup of My Blood. I didn't understand it the first time and I still don't understand it now. You know those horror thrillers from the early 2000s that felt like a strange mix of pornography and religious imagery? Well, this film fits perfectly into that category. I'll leave you with the curiosity to delve into it further if you dare. Another truly dreadful film I watched this month was La Fide e la Formica, an Italian film about a gym teacher who takes it upon himself to personally train one of his students for a marathon. However, this isn't accepted by her conservative family, who oppose her involvement in such activities. Meanwhile, the teacher also has a dodgy past. It's so bad. The acting was terrible. The storyline was so bland. Any semblance of nuance in exploring the conflict between religious and the secular world is drowned out by tired stereotypes and cliches. I then finally got round to watching Picnic at Hanging Rock. One of you guys recommended this. If you're still watching, I apologise, it took me 5 or 6 years to finally check it out. Nonetheless, I'm glad I finally did. The film tells the story of a group of students who venture out on a day trip into the Australian bush, only for most of them to mysteriously vanish. While Picnic at Hanging Rock isn't your typical horror film, it managed to send shivers down my spine in a way that few others have lately. The editing and haunting soundtrack created an eerie atmosphere that lingered long after the credits rolled, and what's particularly impressive is how it achieves this sense of unease without relying on explicit gore or jump scares. Next, I watched Eileen, a film I had briefly mentioned in my Sex in Movies video. I'm so pleased that I didn't read too much about this film, as the twists kept me engaged from beginning to the end. Thomasin McKenzie takes on the role of a secretary warden at a prison, where Anne Hathaway's character is hired as the new psychiatrist. As the two characters grow closer, a significant event occurs that I won't spoil here. While this film certainly has its flaws, including Anne Hathaway's absolutely bizarre wig, I found myself drawn to the development of Thomasin McKenzie's character and the thought-provoking explorations of themes like guilt, parenthood and revenge. Now, remember last month when I watched and loved Ash is Purest White and I was looking forward to watch more from the same director? Well, in January I watched Mountains Made Apart, which bears many similarities to the other film. Not only the lead actress Zhao Tao, who I discovered is credited with popularizing Chinese films in Italy, perhaps explaining why so many Chinese films are available on RaiPlay, the government's free app for films and series, but it also explores similar themes. Like Ash's Purest White, Mountains Made Apart delves into the rapidly evolving Chinese economy and its profound impact on the people caught up in its whirlwind. In January, I also watched John Carpenter's Body Bags, an outrageous anthology film from the 80s. In this movie, a corpse serves as the narrator, introducing us to the stories of various people who met their demise in peculiar ways. With a roster of famous names including Mark Hamill and Sam Raimi, the film delivers a blend of splatter and dark humour that may push the boundaries of today's sensibilities. Moving on, I watched Miracle Letters to the President, a Korean film about a boy's determined quest to have a fully functional and accessible train station in his town, and who decides to use his academic genius to achieve this. What struck me about this film is that it blends typical teen romance movie tropes with sudden gut-wrenching moments of hard-hitting truth. I only watched one documentary this month, One Day in Haram, which offers a glimpse into the bustling environment of La Mecca. While the documentary touches on the overarching story of the sacred site, its primary focus lies on the behind-the-scenes operations that keep everything running smoothly at a site that draws millions of people. Some have criticized this documentary as a form of propaganda. I was more interested into the behind the scenes of it all, a bit like when they show those documentaries about how airports are run. This month I also rewatched a few movies I've seen countless times, so I won't bore you again by talking about them. Of course, I rewatched Twilight, my month wouldn't be complete without it. I rewatched Denis Villeneuve's Sicario, love it, never get bored of it. The only film I rewatched, but which I don't think I've ever spoken about, is Slumdog Millionaire, which I enjoyed this time just like the first. I'd even read the book back in the day by Vikas Varup. It's a story of a young man from a humble background who climbs the Who Wants to Be a Millionaire game thanks to various seemingly random pieces of information he gathered over the years. But with that, we have reached the end of today's list. I would now love to hear what you've been watching this month, what you loved, what you hated, what you thought about all these titles I mentioned today. Let me know everything with a comment down below. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.